Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the second week here of the UKEL, of course. It is going to be myself and Doctor to take you through the first couple games of the evening. Beginning with Peak Esports up against Viperio, I think this one's going to be kind of interesting. Straight off the bat, right? Peak Esports, they looked kind of good last week. They were maybe in, with a chance to overcome, and then, of course, kind of the DC happened, and we didn't really get to see the full image. Meanwhile, Viperio, kind of disappointing in a sense.
Yeah, I still have faith in the Viperio roster. They've also made a swap now. They've dropped down and brought in Wambo in the top lane. So we're 2 weeks in, and we're already getting some roster swaps. Already getting some movement. So that German guy coming on into the UKEL. But I don't know, I'm so confident that Viperio can put it out. I've put them as my pick in my predictions. I think they can still pull this one out. You've got a very strong mid laner in Vixen. Viper definitely, he's had some pretty nutty showings. And then higher and Rapidex, you can't go wrong with that bot lane.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be a really nice opener. Of course, the second game coming up after that will be London Esports up against Mythos. Then it'll be Viperio and the Sarge, of course, to take you through to the final two games. That'll be Bulldog versus NSG, Absolve versus Vector Gaming, of course, those final couple of games. But yeah, just to kind of keep on this, of course, I don't know, obviously the previous champions of the first season, Viperio, like you say, still high hopes. I think it was Absolve last week that they played, if I am just checking my notes. Yeah, indeed. So a pretty kind of formidable opponent, in all fairness, to come up against at that point, if that makes sense. So
yeah,
it's still, you take it with a pinch of salt kind of thing. It's definitely a result that could have gone either way. And like I say, Peak, there's still some question marks around what they're actually going to be able to show us this week, because we didn't get to see the full picture.
Yeah, of course, it was pretty unfortunate with that 4v5 last week, but yeah, happens. So now Peak is sort of looking to try and prove it. They're like, no, guys, trust us, we're good. This is what it looks like when we actually have 5 players. Because having 5 players is usually pretty recommended in the League of Legends scene, but we'll be diving on into the champion select now, and we'll be able to have a look-see and see really what's going on into this game. It's Peak went the 4, were they? They were the 5. What was I saying?
Yeah,
they were the 5.
Well, still,
okay,
it's
the point still stands. They're trying to prove, hey, we can win versus 5 players.
Yeah, I think that's definitely. I got a DM from it because I put them down. I come a little bit from CS:GO, and I know them as a CS org within the UK. Got a DM, and they were like, "Oh, thanks for putting us as a prediction." Obviously, I got a little kind of lucky on that one, in a sense, but all the same, I think they do want to prove themselves, and a lot of people putting them towards the bottom of those tier lists and things, and they do want to show themselves. So either way, yeah, we're into the champ selects. These bands getting through fairly, I'd say at the moment, fairly conventional kind of bands coming in.
Yeah, kind of
maybe
interesting. Yeah, Kled Sejuani. Sejuani's obviously recently been buffed, and people have their differing opinions on that champion. I think that tanks, just keep him out. Don't want to play with that in my games. Just let's keep it to the things. Fair. Let's keep the Elises, the Olafs, But Sejuani, real strong recently. So take that one out. Kled's a bit of a rogue one. Take that one away from Wambo. But then, of course, Soraka from Viperio, out of the game. Good. Nobody wants to see that. Let's just... No support tops. Let's just have some actual champions, please.
Yeah, not yet. Maybe in the coming weeks won't be much of a problem. I think she's getting a pretty fat nerf next week.
That we pray.
Yeah, we do. But either way, we've got some... I suppose the Leona, pretty high priority pick. The Karthus, maybe a bit more of a... Okay, so they have got a solid bot lane out here immediately on the Viperio side, actually. But just to bring it back to Peak Esports, I think the Karthus is kind of interesting. Still a relatively good jungler, but I don't know about first picking.
Yeah, there were a lot of options, Aphelios open set also available. I think it's so dangerous to misdraft right now because there's so many strong blue side first picks, like the 2 I just mentioned, but also then you run the risk of Leona Misfortune on the red side. You can't really give those 2 over because it's such a disgustingly strong lane, and now Elise is open as well, and pretty sure Vixen's going to go ahead and lock that one in because, the Karthus has already been picked by Peak. And then Viperio have what I believe to be the strongest red side first rotation in that Leona, Misfortune, and Elise. This insanely strong early game skirmishing, huge Drake control, You start to knock down some early towers as well. Strong dives. It's lit. We have got a quick note here. The Aatrox is a proxy pick for Senna, and the Amumu is Tahm Kench. So words could not describe how much I hate that lane.
Yeah, it seems the way that the first ban phase went, there wasn't really anything towards the bot lane, which is interesting, right? Because it's something that we see an awful lot of at the moment is, bans towards bot, picks towards bot, and we've seen it kind of go towards that latter where we've just had 4 picks straight away. They both secured their bot lanes in, and it's looking pretty solid across the board for both sides, but in different kind of ways, right? Very safe on the peak side of things, and very, you've got to be careful. The Tahm Kench especially is one to kind of bear in mind. Pre-6, he's pretty squishy, right? He's actually a fair shout for a target, if they manage to get a catch on him. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, that's why you'll see a lot of Kenches running the sort of Guardian cleanse, just to be as truly insecure as possible, which isn't to say it's like the wrong move, but again, I just hate seeing it. Quick note, the Annie is set. That's the lock-in for Viperio there. So they opted to pick him up instead of the Elise, and now we have to see which jungler they're going to want, because when you're up against this Karthus, you really need someone who's got that early pressure, who can really start to force out ganks. With Elise and Gragas taken off the table, would not be surprised to see potentially the Jarvan coming through. Maybe the Olaf, but really you just want something that can combo well with the Leona Misfortune, and Jarvan is absolutely the perfect pick for that.
Yeah, we did see as well, every single game last week had a Jarvan in it somewhere. I don't think he's so strong that banning him is worthwhile, but everybody is fairly comfortable with their Jarvan. Or, well, junglers at least. Okay, interesting if this Pyke actually gets picked up here. I think that bot lane's already been picked, so maybe G2 Liam is just kind of jumping around. But the Olaf, like you say, coming through, another solid early game, fitting into this jungle meta at the moment.
Yeah, I would have preferred to see the Jarvan, obviously, because it's just such a strong... you can force dives, you've got the really good combo, obviously just the pure wombo, very easy to execute. Olaf is still good and basically has a really nice time versus Tahm Kench, because you just run him down. Likewise with the Karthus, but you're on a clock when you're playing versus Karthus, and Olaf is happy to just sort of farm up, and yes, he can look for invades, yes, he can look for some pressure and dragons and whatnot, but it seems like it's just a little bit easier to just go for the Jarvan, like, yeah, level 2 gank, yeah, level 3, yeah, another level 3, maybe even a level 4 gank, and just keep on going until eventually you'll get one lane ahead, and then you can try and snowball through them to try and close out that game before Karthus becomes too big. Now we have Shen and Anivia as for lock-ins, and I'm not being told anything about proxies, so those may actually just be the picks, and then you've got yourself a very interesting comp, because you've got a lot of scaling there, and also a lot of safety if you're running Shen Tahm Kench.
Yeah, for sure. It certainly will be interesting to see how things develop on that one. Seems to be kind of two opposite ends. I think it was the Xerath getting locked in there as well in the end for Vixen. So maybe a bit more of a comfort pick on that one. Again, you talk about safety, quite a safe pick. Certainly not like a priority pick though, and there was an awful lot open, but yeah, I mean, you can't really go wrong with Xerath. I mean, maybe they need a bit more wave clear coming in, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's Xerath versus Anivia, that's fine, right? It's kind of weird. It doesn't really synergize too well, obviously, with the sort of Olaf that you've got and the Leona as well. Olaf, if you have someone who just has a little bit of CC, it's going to go a really long way. And yes, Xerath has a stun, but it's not quite guaranteed. And sure, Xerath does have a large amount of AoE that you can combo with that Leona Misfortune, but you have to think that it's kind of split out a lot, You have to wait on his Q and W cooldowns, and his ult, each one comes out individually. It's not something like a Ziggs where you're just dropping it big damage at once, and then you're getting that combo. But at the same time, it's very safe, and you can chill. But you're against the Karthus. This is not someone who you're particularly worried about being in your lane 24/7. So I don't think that kind of safety is absolutely necessary. But when we look at the peak esports roster, I'm seeing 3 lanes that are not going to have a lot of priority when you have a Karthus and you're versus an Olaf. So there's a lot of potential, I think, for Viperio to really start running this game. With that set, with the Olaf, just get up in the enemy jungle. You've also got the Leona roams as well. Try and find some kills onto the Karthus. Try and get the ball rolling a little bit. Maybe try and spark some dives. Look for those early dragons and heralds.
Yeah, and it was something that they kind of struggled with a little bit, I think, last week, was the objective control, trading objectives in places. You know, if they're on Dragon, let's do Herald, let's, you know, get a top tower or something like that. They very much played to the tune of Absolved. And I think if they can get something rolling a little bit more and can work together a bit better and just sort of, you know, focus on the early game, focus on those objectives and securing them in good time, could be a bit better for them. It did seem like, you know, like I say, when they're playing someone else's game, it was kind of harder for them to play reactively. Maybe if the plan starts going their way, it could be a bit more effective for sure.
Yeah, well, we have to sort of wonder, what's the plan for Peak here? Because you've got Senna Tahm Kench, so your plan is don't die. And that's a pretty easy plan to execute when you've got those, but really you're just sort of playing a waiting game. Don't forget that Senna did get nerfed in ADC on this patch, 10.3. She got a heavy hit to her soul gain as an ADC, so she is going to take a bit of extra time to start coming online. And whilst you have this Senna Tahm Kench chilling in the bot lane, Rapidex can be roaming on the Senna pretty easily. Misfortune has a decent enough time in that lane. You're so fast, you just outrange them. You stand pretty safely back, and then you pop the strut, and you're going to run away from any of their CCs. It's pretty hard to die as a Misfortune in that matchup if you play it correctly. So, Rapidex can roam up, and then you're stuck with Alcove Andy playing Anivia in the mid lane, and that seems pretty dangerous. You know, you're just going to get a sort of three-man pincer coming in, maybe, from Viper, Haya, and Vixen, getting dove from every side of the lane, and then you wonder, well, what's Fraser doing about this? And the answer is he's picking Karthus, so he's kind of just power clearing. So this is a bit of a dangerous time for Peak, especially pre-6. Once they hit level 6, of course, you're going to have the Senna ult, you're going to have the Shen ult. You can try to make those reactive plays happen. You can try to hold off on Viperio's movements, but before that, very risky, very dangerous time. So I think it's just really scary to be Peak in the early stages of this game, and I don't even know if they get the sort of turbo outscaling that you would look for when you've drafted such a late game team.
Yeah, it certainly does need them to just sort of hold on, right, and not fall flat, and I think it is going to be difficult for them, right? We're seeing almost the kind of defensive summoners coming in a sense, from the Tahm Kench and everything like that. You know, they're really looking to play this slowly, I think. So we shall have to find out.
Yeah, right. So wild summoners. Oh, he's gone for the exhaust. Okay, so no cleanse being picked up by Synapse Sprinter. We don't know if he's running. Maybe he is running Guardian. Maybe he's gone for the summoner swap. I feel like if you're going summoner swap, you take a cleanse every single time. So pretty safe to assume the Guardian. And then, of course, teleports in every solo lane. Now, Wembo, of course, has locked in the old Shen. Locked in the old set up in the top lane. And that champion is not balanced. There's no two ways about it. It's pretty disgusting. So, again, this is another lane that Viper can look to play to. He can try and make a lot happen up top. And he also is going to have a lot of options, Wambo, on that set throughout the game. You think about it. He's got, the Anivia will be building a Roa. Tahm Kench gets a lot of health. Shen gets a lot of health. So lots of people that he can successfully slam dunk into the enemy backline to get that extra damage, to get that engage in the fights.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
Right, well, we'll see. Fairly conventional setups here. No invades, just sort of holding off at the moment. Looking relatively good across the board. So yeah, I think it certainly is going to be that 245 kind of mark that we'll be looking to see where Olaf particularly ends up going early on.
Minions have spawned.
But again, I feel like it's where, particularly with what they're after, the Java may well have been a bit more of an effective pick. You know what I mean? So trying to get these early lanes going. I think, I don't know, it's kind of a hard one to call at this point. I just think that the Jarvan would have had a bit of a better, potential of moving towards the bot lane, starting on the top side. Might be a bit harder for the Olaf to get going. Maybe they burn some summoners and catch things off guard, but obviously at this stage of the game, everybody's got their summoners up, so...
Yeah, it's... Both junglers just starting topside and going to full clear down, and that is beneficial to Viper because he has the opportunity to gank on the bot lane. As the Karthus, you are not getting a gank off in that 2v2, sort of no matter what, so... it's pretty useful for Viper. If he wants to try and make something happen down there, he can. But like you say, I think the Jarvan is just... If early ganks are your plan, Jarvan is just significantly better, and he really has that extra synergy with the team as well. There's only so many times we can say it, but also with Olaf, you want someone who can help you out. You want someone that can give you just a little bit of something when you go in, you know. Even a Braum is really strong with Olaf because he jumps in with you and then can block for you, and that's not something that a Leona can really do. So there is a chance that Viper runs in, he pops all of his resistances, or pops his ult and loses them all, and then just gets immediately bombed by the Anivia, just blown up by that Frostbite, and then you're having a really rough time. So we'll have to see how this one pans out for Viper and for Viperio as the game goes on.
Early trade's not going so hot for Curly Fry. I think maybe gonna, even with, you know, landing the taunt and starting things off, probably gonna learn that it's not a fight that he can win. But here comes the invade that you were talking a little bit about. Unfortunately going the wrong way. Fraser is relatively lucky that he goes towards to look towards those chickens, because I think perhaps a flash might have been needed to escape.
Yeah, it can always be a move to just move on down and try and find out the Carthus on his Krugs. Very few champions clear fast enough to be able to do it, but Olaf is one of them. And if you catch him out there, you're having a grand time. But as it stands, it's a lot of wasted time for Viper. And this means that it's a full clear by Fraser, who's going to be able to reset and go up and grab that crowd and then start full clearing again. Meanwhile, Viper's now got to go back and take out his wolves, and he's going to end up sort of scuffing his clear a little bit and the spawnings on his camps. But actually, instead, he's looking to go and run in for the double crab. Now, he doesn't have the prio in the top lane, but he does have it mid. Carthus moving in as well. Fraser, of course, does have that amp tome. So if he finds out Viper, it could be a little risky. Could force a summoner.
Oh, this might just get a little bit spicy here, because, I mean, Viper is very close by. Not quite sure. I suppose he's spotted out by the Carthus. They are really trying to cut off Curly Fry here. Surely he goes down. I mean, it's not even worth expending the flash. The first blood comes in easily enough, just kind of getting him out. I think, you know, they were in the same sort of idea. I'll hold the point, because it looks like we're seeing a bit of action in the bot lane as well. The Tom Kench, as we said, got to be careful. Fairly, you know, squishy early on. Eventually decides to back away as the Leona peels well enough there for higher.
A little bit risky up there, but with Curly Fry using the taunt the way he did, you find himself in a pretty sticky situation where he's pushed up, and you think if Fraser is there half a second earlier, maybe they can look to collapse, but because he uses the taunt aggressively, instead of moving on down, trying to protect that crab, and really I think there's no way that Curly Fry gets anything there in the lane. He's not blowing a flash, he's not getting a kill, and you think there has to be some communication with Fraser and Curly Fry. And Fraser saying, look, I'm coming up for the crab, can you just come down and back it up? Because if he comes down, just even to face check it a little bit, because they're worried about getting double crabbed, then you find the Olaf, and then you have a pretty decent chance of getting a kill when you have the taunt to lock him down, on top of the W, on top of the Carthus damage that's coming out, you know, get the wall, get the magic resist shred, you're having a good time. So it seems like a little bit of a sort of miscommunication there between Curly Fry and Fraser, and pretty much the opposite between the new player to the Viperio roster, Wambo, and Viper seem to be doing a pretty good job moving there as a unit, even with minimal playtime together.
Yeah, pretty good stuff. Does bode well. I think it's a relationship that's, particularly in this game, really going to need to work out, right? If you can get that set.
Yeah, you have to go in together.
You're really in a good place.
Like, if they're ever not on the same page as Set and Olaf, one of them's dying. You know, this is very all or nothing. Likewise with Rapidex as well. You sort of need Rapidex to get the engage, and then Wambo can go and suplex someone, and you bring in Viper on the Olaf as well. Curly Fry doing a good job up in the top lane of dodging out these haymakers. Not taking too much chip damage from that, but now the Cloud Drake is the focus from Viper, and as you've got a Senatom Kench, there is nothing you can do to stop it on the side of Peak. Now Wambo taking good trade.
Ooh. It's looking pretty good. The flash forwards as well. Not quite able to find the damage. The true damage doesn't come off. Kind of expending an awful lot to not get the kill there, in all honesty. And Curly Fry still has his flash up, so he kind of comes out of that exchange a little bit more advantageous.
Oh, as well. So they're waiting for him to finish the recall, and then Fraser might be able to just look to flash on into Wambo. Wambo has no flash himself.
Beautiful read coming in from Doctor, of course, but yeah, it's going to work out pretty well. Wambo will see the shields come through as Conqueror has been propped, and they are not fancying it. Actually going to back off. The power of Set coming in. No mana available really for Fraser there. I think it just kind of I mean, the idea is there, the play is there. It's just kind of the champion that you're up against. A little bit difficult. Meanwhile, in mid lane, Alco Vandy, not enough mana to finish things off there. So we're seeing a lot of exchanges across the map that are kind of not really going anyone's way. You know, slight, small advantages maybe to CSing and things like that, but no kills.
I mean, we call these advantages to Viperio, I think. Obviously, the flash being lost by Wambo isn't great, but again, you're against the Karthus late. This is a opportunity for the Karthus to now come up and punish him, but realistically, Fraser doesn't want to do that. He wants to just keep clearing out his jungle. But importantly, the Stand United has been blown. That's a pretty hefty cooldown. It's used a very nice, proactive use of it to try and set up that gank. You know, it's an interesting way to get a gank going with a Karthus, but I like it. It doesn't work out that time, and now that's a 3-minute cooldown that's been blown. Not going to be able to be used to try and bail anyone out at a later date. Unfortunately, the dragon has already been taken, so Viperio won't be looking to capitalize on that by getting huge plays down on the bot lane, but we can already see Viper is just here, ready and waiting for that Herald to spawn. He's got his bot lane here with him. He doesn't care that he's on the crab. He knows there's no contest.
Yeah, and this is hugely improved, in fact, from last week, right? Talking about just before we got in, the objective control and things like that was not fantastic from them, and they were constantly just having to react, whereas now they have a bit more of a proactive edge. Fraser will just about get it in. Beautiful kite of the Karthus. Right. He's all good. See a little bit of a scrap, of course, as Wambo wants to keep on fighting. The suplex even coming in, really going for this one. And to be fair, the fight starts quite close to his tower, so there's a good chance, there is a good chance if his cooldowns come back off, that he might be able to get it, and he lands pretty much everything, but still not quite enough damage. Another exchange ends in no kill, but of course, Wambo's got quite a great deal of HP to work with. Should be able to possibly bully him out. Again, that Karthus just looking to farm, not high enough HP to really help out. Meanwhile, Herald on the top side going to get dropped.
Yeah, the wave has been cleared on out, but this should be a nice bit of gold going over to Higher here. Actually, it might only go to Viper. No, it is split between Higher and Viper. They're both getting 120 each, so that's pretty nifty. And if we take a look at the top lane matchup, Curly Fry chose this, and it seems that every single time his taunt is up, he has to use it to dodge out of a W. If he ever gets hit, he has to be so scared. Yes, he has the Spirit's Refuge, which is really good at blocking out the 1-2 punches from Wambo's. Viper, a little caught, but should be okay. I think... Oh, Curly Fry. Not quite getting sniped out there. But
Vixen tried for it. Oh, God. Oh. And now we've got a bit of a scrap going on.
Oh, no.
From the other side, and that's the Karthus coming in, of course. No escape at all for Viper.
Oh, whenever you get to half health,
to everybody. Yeah, I know,
you are getting
right?
globally sniped. So
Flash coming out as well from Higher.
Yeah.
This is turning
that's
into
really
quite
good
a
for
scrappy
Peak.
one, I think.
Yeah, took us by surprise a little bit, but that's good for Peak, right? They've managed to pick themselves up the kill, but this is now the opportunity for Viperio. That was 2 huge cooldown global ultimates used. Stand United is now back up, and these are things you have to sort of play around and between. We've got Drake spawning in 1 minute. The Requiem not going to be available. Okay, cool. We're going to get to see a replay of this. So how did Vixen's ults land down in the bot lane? We just saw the last one miss, but he seemed under the tower. Yeah. It seemed pretty spooky. Let's see how they went. First one goes wide. He's doing it with no vision. It's kind of close, bearing in mind he's got no vision, but realistically it's not at all. And now we get to see that Viper, he gets chunked out a little bit, and then bim, bam, boom, in comes the Requiem. Maybe it's not even needed. Might have died to the Ignite, but we got to get those Dark Harvest stacks in onto the Karthus.
Of course. All for the late game, all for the scaling comp, so it's nice to get an early kill in the bag. That's certainly annoying from Alco Vandy, delaying the back of Vixen. Does take a fair amount of damage, but with Dragon coming up soon, you know, they really need to get their timings right here. And yeah, the back is actually going to be stopped by Vixen there, and he's going to wait for this wave. I suppose he might just about, I think he's just about to get his TP back up.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be up in time. I think he has to run
it's going to be a bit of a tight one, isn't it? And he's got, because it's this whole, you know, he doesn't have mana to really stay and help out.
Oh, he's got it. Should be fine. So
we're good.
This is a very important moment of the game right here, because obviously the early focus, you're trying to work around the cooldowns that have been blown by Peak, you're trying to get these early Drakes with the Olaf comp, and also your mid lane. Alco Vandy is double stacking, but hold that thought.
There it is, the big engage coming through from both sides, to be fair. Stan United going to be used. So much damage going down. It looks like, though, the save from the Shen coming in. The triple taunt, in fact. Wombo trying to get the damage back onto the other side of things. Suplexing straight back into the team. They will manage to trade out the Shen. That is such a shame as well. I do believe it was a triple taunt coming in from him. Maybe we'll get to catch it on the replay and everything.
Honestly, I was... Oh, Andy!
Oh! I don't know if he has the damage.
I think he reses in time. Vixen... Yeah,
Vixen knows it. Vixen gets away, but at the very least, what Vixen has done there is he's, kept that Anivia away, allows them to get the objective control. Obviously, the Karthus being down helps as well. Okay, we are done. I was going to say we're not quite done yet as we're chasing down there. The Senna given a good amount of speed. They actually want to keep on fighting here. Do need to be a little careful. But here we go. Okay. The replay of the fight.
All right, so let's watch this one through. Obviously, standard engage from Rapidex that does get cancelled out by Silent Sprinter, but they still get a nice tiny bit of damage out here. But really just, I'm watching the flank here from the set. Right now, a lot of bait coming through. Viper tanking a lot, and then here you're going to see that big taunt. You're talking about 3-man taunt, but just watch Wambo. He's just running in. It's a flash. It's a stun. He gives him the wham. He gives him the bam. He gives you the thank you, ma'am. Suplexes them down. Silent Sprinter forced to flash on out. Not a lot he can do to try and keep anyone alive in that fight. Least of all, Curly Fry, who then ends up going down, of course, and they get themselves the dragon. And now this is vital because we look at Vixen. He's got himself a Ludens. Meanwhile, 1v2? No, never. Wait, that's so wait, Liam, this is why I hate this lane.
Yeah.
Make Kenshi invisible, Kench ults you both out. Disgusting. But Vixen has got the Ludens here, and Alcavade has a Tear and a Catalyst. These are not comparable builds, so this is now the opportunity that you want to be looking. Good damage, but you want to be looking to try and knock down towers, get some plates, and we see that Rift Herald spawning up in under a minute now. So again, make sure that you've got Viper up there when that's available. Really get the ball rolling. Keep the tempo up because you're in a good spot right now. Viper's probably sitting on his Warrior Enchant. You've got that finished item in mid. These are the times that you need to start getting the game going. Get that snowball because right now you've got the 2 dragons, but you're actually only really like 200 gold ahead.
On a ward, needs to be careful, kind of aware of the fact. They are definitely playing up for this Herald though. I think the main thing, you look towards middle, right? They have such great priority over here, and Andy has to be careful. If he takes, a full combo to the face, he's dead, right? Even without the ultimate, and the ultimate's up at the moment. So, he does need to be careful, kind of knows it, going to back away. I think, obviously, Vixen is not going to get greedy with it, going to look to save it for the objective, but all the same, we didn't necessarily question the Xerath pick, but, this is the job that it needed to do, keeping the mid priority, getting some good damage, making sure that the Anivia is always just a step behind maybe, and having to play around the Xerath rather than, moving in, making her own moves.
Yeah, so you've got this impossible to lose lane when you've picked the Xerath into the Anivia. You're just going for comfort, really, and it's something we saw last week as well with Bulldog, when they had the Renekton, Elise, Misfortune, and Leona. And we said, you know what? Wins, play Corki, man. It doesn't matter what you play in the mid lane, as long as you can just sort of hold your own, go a little even. If you get prio, great, but we're just looking to force dice in the side lane. And it seems a little bit like that's what's happened here, and that they've gone, look, you're not going to get ganked by a Karthus, so you can pick someone who scales well. Just do what you can to keep the Anivia away, because we're playing around the Drakes, we're playing around the Leona anyway, and it's worked out really well. So the Herald has now been secured, and they can try to look to knock down some T2 towers here. You get the good push in with Vixen. You've now got the whole squad coming in. The Shen ult is available, but it's not going to be enough.
The wall, unfortunately, in the way, right? I think the idea there, Viper was kind of tunneling a little bit and had to be called off because both the Leona and the MF were having to go around the terrain.
Sure, but they get the flash.
Burn, though. Yeah, always good. We'll see, though. I feel like... Now, I'm not an expert on this matchup, but I feel like as it goes on into the side lanes, there's maybe a chance that the Shen starts to kind of, win it a little bit. It does depend on how he goes down, maybe if he doesn't pick up a Titanic or anything like that, but I think with the, the blocking mechanic, of course, there's a good chance. This is kind of risky here in the top lane, though. Yeah, Haya trying his best to keep them back with the ultimate. Unfortunately, he has to burn his flash. Saves the tier 1 top tower, though.
Hey, we did
it's not a massive trade-off, but...
Yeah, it gets a little bit too close there, but this holding that tower is pretty important with that Drake spawning up. Now the tower's not going to go down because everyone wants to reset to prioritize that dragon, so Now we also see the Herald being deployed bot lane to make sure that that tower is secured, and it's a perfect timing on the reset from Viper. It takes about 30 seconds to reset down to a Drake, so he's going to recall and make sure he's there just in the nick of time. And you were talking about the Shen set matchup. I think you're right. I think there is potential for the Shen to start getting ahead in this lane, especially if you'd run something like Conqueror as opposed to the Grass. Really go for the pure 1v1. A couple of Shens do like to do that. I think it's kind of debated how good it is, but the really smart adaptation I like from Wambo here a lot is that he just picks up the Wit's End. We can see it finish now. That's really helping you in the 1v1 versus the Shen, who's doing a lot of magic damage. It's also helping you out with the Anivia in these team fights. Karthus, of course, is a very AP-heavy team. I like it a lot. Here's the engage.
Yeah, that is a huge catch coming in. Just about able to actually keep the Anivia away from getting egged. It's Viper who goes down. It's a double kill for the Karthus. That was a great engage, but maybe this is part of the issue, I suppose, you know, one of the small issues. Maybe hold the point, because it looks like they are still trying to fight around this dragon. Okay, so it will be secured fully by Peak. This is looking pretty good for them. But yeah, so the one issue with the Leona, I think, is when you go in, you committed. There's no way out, right? You fully go in for it. And I think what happens there is a little bit of tunnel vision, you know, blood in the water for Rapid Lex. He sees this Anivia coming in and he's like, guys, let's go. And before everyone's gone like, okay, yeah, sure, it sounds like a good idea, already committed, already, you know, expended everything, and they're not even able to get the egg out, right? Let alone the kill. And again, the Tom Kench, very annoying, very disgusting even. But all the same, it's really well played there by Peak to just kind of recover that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very hard comp for you to engage into, but critically, he's engaging without the full squad. They're still waiting for Viper to get in, or someone was coming down, and Haya didn't have the ultimate, and that's the huge part about this matchup, is Leona locks someone down so much for the Misfortune ultimate, for that bullet time, when that's not available. Suddenly Rapidex finds himself in the middle of 5 people who are all suspiciously high on health. So that one not going the way they exactly wanted it to go, and they do end up losing the dragon as well. Now it's just a mountain right now. Those shards will start to add up though if Viperio lose too many, and now the engage could be found. Silent Sprinter will be bailed out by his ADC.
Or not, they're really committing to this one. Even the Xerath ult coming in to try and just get any gold at the kill. Oh, it goes across the Leona. That's a bit awkward, but really committing to just try and get some kills, right? And try and get a little bit of an advantage to just push forwards here, which I suppose is nice, but
you take what you can get. I mean,
you use quite a bit for it.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting Liam to heal, and you just use that movement speed and you're fine. Maybe Synapse Sprinter was expecting it too, who's to say, but he ends up going down there, and not great. The kill does go over to Leona, as you say, and is an awful lot expended, but the cooldowns aren't as long. That's the important thing to mention, is that Viperio can afford to take those kinds of fights, whereas, you know, Peak with Fraser, Curly Fry, and Liam, they really cannot. Now Viper maybe caught out a little bit.
Ooh, yeah, the flash coming through from Fraser, but the damage, again, it's just so big. Here comes the Requiem as well. There's a lot of low HP bars. Kill will come through onto the Leona. Haya gets stuck behind the Anivia wall. And again, Peak are able to just kind of turn the engage around. There just doesn't seem to... I get the idea of the, you know, that wombo combo, of course, but I think primarily the MF just isn't quite strong enough yet to, okay, I've caught someone, blow them up, right? It's just not quite there. I suppose Fraser has to flash away.
Oh, Wambo's looking for something.
Wambo's coming in with a huge flank, a massive suplex as well into the entire team. This is so much damage. They are underneath the Viperio tower. Unfortunately, again, not quite able to finish off the kills. So much damage done. Saves the tower, but they're just going to move straight back into it, right? If he'd have come in with that one and there was, you know, maybe an AD alive to help out, maybe a mid laner to help out, but unfortunately it's not the case. I think, in fact, Vixen went down despite the flank. So
yeah, I mean, this is the problem. There's a lot of engages that are very split. You see that fight in the jungle, you think maybe if Wambo's there, if he TP's in, or if they just hold off and let him run up, that fight goes extremely differently. When you have, obviously, the set ult coming in on top of the Misfortune Leona combo as well, it starts to get really ridiculous. But in that fight, and we should get a replay here, you can see that Alco Vandy is doing a really good job here. So he disengages Viper and keeps everyone locked in a little bit, but really, Viperio overstaying hard here. But just getting that extra bit of zone out, it doesn't quite go onto the Misfortune, but she's still scared enough that she's forced to blow both sums and cancel out her ult. Meanwhile, it's chunking out Viper, who doesn't have the ult, so he's in a pretty sticky situation as well. And then it's just a lovely wall, which will cause Haya to go down as well. Meanwhile, there's nothing Wambo can do to get in because of that wall. And then we saw how it played out from there. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to find out about more about that play, and how Alcove Andy has the pure raw mechanics to press a Nivea W. We do have a pre-show going on Sundays, and there will be interviews, as you can see. There can be a bit of some highlights, maybe see clips like that. You get the players and say, what did it feel like to wall off Set and stop him walking into the fight? And they'll say, it felt okay. Or will they? Find out next week, Sunday, 5 p.m.
I love it. Great plug. Great plug.
Excellent.
All right, let's see. A little bit more coming in. I mean, down goes Fraser, just kind of getting caught out there. Nothing too special to it. That's how the comp is working. The turnaround from Peak, though, how is this going to look? We'll have to see. The wall is perfect once again. And the damage from MF just isn't really there. It all goes on to Curly Fry. In comes Fat Wambo. Let's see what he can get done. Gonna get exhausted out. Not quite able to land the W really onto anybody effective. Damage is coming in. His Conqueror has been proc, but they're just not able to find the kills. There just doesn't seem to be enough damage quite here.
It's the W?
Oh, we'll see. The Xerath able to flash away from the taunt. He's got this range. Could keep kiting them away, but Curly Fry kind of knows it, staying close to him, you know, not allowing them really any way back in. Gonna get stunned up. Needs to be a little bit careful. Taunt not quite gonna land this time. The wall coming in again from Anivia, though, and stopwatch out. I think, unfortunately, just kind of delaying the inevitable, stays around for a little bit too long and will eventually get taken down. Peak, once again, despite losing Fraser early on to a catch from the Leona, are able to turn it around and may even get the Dragon out of it. This is perhaps a little greedy.
He has no ult.
Fraser's around, gonna get stunned up, gonna get rooted up, and well, it ends up working for them. So there you are. Yeah, I think with Fraser coming in, they were feeling a little more confident for it. And ultimately, this Anivia seems to be a very, very big problem for Viperio. The walls are actually brilliant, and the stuns as well. You know, they're just walking straight into them. Yeah, and this is really just kind of creating so many fights, I think.
I mean, you have these two champions that get completely ruined by a Nivea wall in the Olaf and the Set. There's no way that they can get over it, obviously. And then, as we saw in that fight previously, it's doing a really good job of punishing Haya as well. Haya is not having the best positioning on these ults. Not the best ults either, really, when you think about how the whole team together should be working. I think that's not that's not a Haya issue, that's a Viperio issue. But yeah, when you have the Anivia just locking down Haya when he steps too far forward and just denying everyone out of the fight, it goes really well. So we see they get the initial engage onto Fraser, and that's fine. They managed to find out the kill. Silent Sprinter kind of making a bit of questionable moves here, so he goes in a bit too close. But then the second the Shen ult comes in, again, Viper just over chases a bit too much. They kind of seem to forget that they've got that Karthus pinching them there, and then it's a lovely flash engage, of course, from Alcove Andy. Here we see the Misfortune ult come out, and it's not doing a lot, and it's all going onto tanks. And then a big suplex from Wambo, sure, but then look at this! Haya just walks, he starts walking into like absolute melee range. It's like, hang on, lads, something's gone wrong here. Just gets immediately comboed out by the Anivia. He says, wait, I just wanted to kill Kench, be cool. They managed to find the one snipe out onto the top Kench at the end of it. We've seen how this one plays out. It's good harass coming through from Vixen. He's trying to keep Curly Fry out, but then another lovely wall. Alcovani could not be happier with a Mountain Rift map, of course. So many extra choke points that you get to block off. And now Viper stuck in the 1v4. Thank you, Joe, for highlighting that one, because he goes bada bing, bada boom, drops down dead. Has no Ragnarok available. Just a few seconds left on that one.
I absolutely hate this, by the way.
You know, I think Vixen might as well.
Yeah, I whenever someone does that, it tilts me so much. Do you know what I mean? Like, they let you push up and like think that you're safe, and then catch you out. But you know, it's got to be done. It's got to be done really when there's a fair amount on the line, and Peak have got a lot to prove, right? If they're able to win this one, which it's looking awfully good, they might just, you know, people underestimating them a little bit. We'll see. We've got a fight going down on the bot side that is now going the way of the Shen now that he's built the Titanic. The Baron seems to be going down. It looks like they are going to go for it. Viper's coming in. Ooh, almost. It did look awfully close, but unfortunately, you know, you don't get the Baron. You've now just given 2 kills away. The Anivia continues to be a problem. Just unstoppable at the moment.
Viper's 3 levels down. He's not getting that steal. Gives it a go. Obviously has the true damage on Z. Haya in a pretty sticky situation here. Not going to be able to get out of this one, I don't think. There it is. Oh my god. Okay. All right. Okay.
That was a good. It
doesn't even have Oblivion Orb. Right, look at this.
Yeah.
Haya, your misfortune in this comp. So you can't use your ult to just try and chunk out a Tam Kent. She is not the important person here. Rapid X. You can't go in when Misfortune's already with the ult. It's not how this one works. Now Viper goes in full steal, and then he's looking to combo E-Smite, and Fraser just already smites it. Like Fraser's so many levels up that he can just out-smite the reckless swings there. It's a pretty rough time. So Viperio have started to fall pretty far behind in this one. They're down 7.5k. It's rough. They had to get the early advantages, and they've really had everything laid out to be able to do it. You know, when you're playing up against this comp that has such huge cooldowns, it's pretty easy to try and abuse them. And then, like I was saying, in the mid lane, you've got the double stacking mid lane, you've got the scaling jungler, you've got the useless bot lane, which is now getting to be pretty useful. And you think, okay, this is how we make the magic happen. You play around the Drakes, and it was going well up until that one fight at that first mountain Drake. Really all starts to go downhill from there, because when you start giving over the kills, and it gets to the point where you can't poke them out, you can't make the picks, you're having a really, really rough time. You've got another dragon spawning in 1 minute. That's probably going over the way of Peak, and as I said before, once these mountain shards start stacking up, again, it just gets so much harder, especially when there's so much health on the side of Peak. We look at the double Leandris coming out, Rowers in the mid lane, Edge of Nights, 2 tanks. The extra resistances really work a lot when you have all of that effective HP to work with.
So Viperio stuck in a rut once again. Let's see how they can get out of things here. I don't know. It's kind of a difficult one, right? The Olaf, it seems, wanted to go a bit more towards the damage, building the warrior. Now moving in towards tank.
Nope.
It's kind of hard to call. We do have a pause, of course. Hopefully, should be able to get back into the game pretty quickly there. But
all right, managed to pause the stream on my other monitor. I can actually see what's going on. These are the moves. Okay.
This is us. What's going down?
Well, what's going down is Dragon. That's spawning in about 10 seconds. Looks to be the focus from Peak. Alcove Andy, by the way, for a long time has been sat on Cleanse TP. He has got that unsealed spell book. Not something we've really touched on a lot, but yeah, he's gone for the cleanse, and he just doesn't even need the flash at this point. He's pretty happy with his situation. If ever gets caught out, you cleanse, you flash, you're good, right? And what do Viperio do in this situation? Because they still have this huge one, but you've now got the 2 items on set. He's finished for Triforce. I feel like even though they're down 8k, they can still win fights, but just Rapidex and High never seem to be on the same page. And when you're playing Leona Misfortune and when you're the bot lane, that's kind of something that you need.
Yeah, and I think, like you say, there is that potential for them to maybe win a fight. It all kind of depends on the catch that they get. And from what we've seen from the team fights, also their positioning needs a bit of work, a bit of an improvement.
Yeah.
Because it does just seem that the pieces are there, but they're not necessarily being put in the right order, right? And one good fight maybe could go their way, but has that window of opportunity kind of passed, right? Because you look at, okay, we get a good catch onto Senna or Karthus, but there's still an Anivia, or there's still, that Senna if we are focusing the Karthus. There's a few too many elements of the Peak team that they need to get rid of, and I don't quite think they have the ability to do that, right? The comp, unless they all kind of clump and a real good Leona ult comes down, I think it's going to be a little bit too difficult for them. And the Xerath needs a bit more time before he can just kind of like face roll certain, not even everybody, right? We're talking about this is the thing, the way that the Dragons are going, maybe he gets through to the Senate, but then obviously the Senate kind of recognizes this, picking up a very early Edge of Night. So
yeah, smart pickup that. I think that was actually built before the Dustblade as well.
Yeah,
so they're really working out there. But what you have to consider here, right? Set is not a balanced champion. So much so that this is all part of Wambo's plan. You get down 8k because then, right, they build more health. So your ult does more damage. You couple that with them doing more damage to you. You're stacking the grit faster. It's all part of Wambo's plan to come back in this game. He just needed to give them a bit of an advantage first, because everyone at Set is going to have a really fun time when he's playing from behind, surely. Now, the Mountain Dragon's gone down. That's 3 stacks. This is, what's it give, 6 per stack, I think it is, 6%? So that's 18%, just free armor and magic resist. But Set does true damage, so Wambo's okay with it. But yeah, at this point, you've got 2 items on Higher to the 3 on Liam. A lot of cheeky assists have been picked up by Liam to give him a lot of gold in this game, and it doesn't help that Haya's items are so expensive. But
Yeah.
you just need one fight. You just need flash ult from Wambo, flash ult from Rapidex, throw Haya on top of that as well. Edge of Night's only going to block one thing. You know, Tahm Kench can only eat one person. If you're throwing out, 5k AoE damage, surely at some point someone will die. It feels like there has to be a way for Viperio to come back in this. I don't want to completely write the game off, but it relies on them doing a lot of things that they haven't been doing already.
Yeah, I think they've had the opportunities to showcase what we're talking about, right? And it has kind of, it's particularly the Tahm Kench. They burn an awful lot, and then he just kind of eats them.
74 stacks on the center.
Indeed. Always good to see. Maybe the IE, would you say, picked up to just kind of get those crits chunking a bit more, or?
Yeah, at this point in the center build, well, the Yumus is really nice to run away.
Yeah, I was going to say
it
a
makes
bit more lethality.
Impossible to kill. But really, Liam's already got the defensive item picked up with the Edge of Night, so I think at this point, yeah, you're right. The Infinity Edge, you have a lot of gold, so you can really shell out for that, or you just go for the Rectified Cannon for a bit of poke. Both are pretty strong options here, but...
Oh my goodness, the damage, absolutely huge, just immediately exploded. They're all focusing damage onto Curly Fry. He's so happy to go for that. They are dragging him quite far away from the team. Going to have to come through this tower, take a little bit of damage, but ultimately, they're just not able to take him down, and he dishes a bit out himself. Another kill to come through. And despite their best efforts, again, Viperio not really able to find all that much. Sure, it's a bit difficult. The Eve flash is very, very hard to get away from. The taunt flash onto the Xerath, who arguably is going to be one of their
It's hard to get away
sources.
from, but should the Xerath ever really be in range of it?
Yeah, you've got to be at this level, right? You've got to be ready for that kind of a prospect.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, there's just no damage coming through for Viperio, especially when they're trying to use things like set ult for Peel, and the Misfortune ult is just not doing a lot. But they do find a little bit onto Andy, and haha, Tahm Kench, Shen ult, never mind. Take it back, but...
Cooldowns, a big, I suppose, the Stand United coming out, but... We'll see, the bodies start to come back up, right? The HPs are kind of low here. Solar Flare going to come down. The Suplex back up. All the cooldowns are back up. We're so late on into the game. The Xerath far away enough to get his ultimate down as well. Tahm Kench might just be able to keep Anko Aldi alive. Bullet Time able to finally finish somebody off. So there we go. They have pulled things back.
Wambo's looking for a little bit more. Fraser is out of mana.
Yeah, they do need to be careful here not to kind of fall to the same trap that Peak just did, right? The greed, the overstay.
How does... Higher, why are you there?
No, it's so...
Higher, no.
Yeah.
Higher, more like... Buyer.
Oh, okay.
Classic comedy.
I thought you were going to go towards dire, to be honest. But also,
it is a pretty dire situation, but...
Yeah.
This is pretty rough. They got the chat on, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it was intentional. It was the fourth-man player." No, but it's not great from Higher. They did manage to get the big shutdowns over, put those ones onto Set and onto the Misfortune. Nice, a bit of extra money, but yeah, it seemed like Peak were doing a bit of a Viperio there. Viperio did a bit of a Peak. Oh, chasing a bit. Now, yes, the Coffers had no mana, but then your Misfortune is in melee range of the Shen. But what this has done is bought you a little bit of time. And now you can maybe try to look for another steal on the Baron. You're still 3 levels down your jungle, and he's got no ult now because you just really wanted the crab. But is this the opportunity for Viper? He has no way to get in the pit. The Sailite Sprinter will break the cone. It's not looking great, and yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's almost like, there's a little bit of autopiloting going on. Hire's really having a tough time, but yeah, Viper just kind of... I suppose at this point, the cooldown on his ultimate's not too bad. For the fact that he's able to stay alive. But like you say, they're keeping the pressure up, right? The mid wave moving up, and now they're able to get onto the Baron with no vision, with no blast cone.
So the cooldown's low.
Yeah,
there's no contest here. Yeah. Like I said, the cooldown's low on Hire's ult, right? I just feel like the cooldown on moving seems pretty high for Hire. The amount of times that he's just been in melee range of the Shen, just been like, yeah, this checks out. Yeah, this sounds about right. Now the Tahm Kench looking to try and start something off. You bring in the Carthus. Psych, they're just looking for a 4th Mountain Drake. This is up against a comp that was built around getting these early dragons. They got the early ones, but then they've dropped 4 in a row. That is 22%, I believe. No, 24% 3 armor and magic resist. Probably explains a little bit why Haya's ults aren't doing too much damage, though he has picked up a Last Whisper to try and negate that a little bit, but he's picked up a Last Whisper and Liam's picked up a full rapid fire cannon, so it's not great. Oh.
Certainly is not. And the way the Shen is built, pretty much everybody on that team is not doing anything. He doesn't have a great deal of MR, but then he has so much HP that it just doesn't really matter all that much against,
That's where the set ult comes.
I mean,
he's gonna one-hit Liam with that ult.
Yeah, we'll see. If Curly Fry, he's got to be careful not to get too close. This is going to have to be the last stand, though, because the Baron minions are just, taking things down here. And I think there's 2 fights going on at the moment. Not quite sure what's happening. It's all a little bit of a mess. It seems to be going heavily in favor. I mean, we'll see here. The 2 damage sources still alive, but of course the Karthus, not yet used the Requiem, goes down, finds the final kill. Triple kill coming in for him, in fact. An absolute clown fiesta at the end, but it will be Peak to take the game fairly decisively, you have to say, as well. A good 15k gold lead there, 14k gold lead in the end.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of that fight, it was sort of the story of the whole game. Rapidex is going in, people are going out. This is not the perfect setup that you're looking for, and like I said, kind of decisive from Peak. It's a bit of a messy one, because it started out very good for Viperio. They knew exactly what they had to do. They had really clean macro early on, really clean. It's like, yep, we have stronger jungle, we have stronger lanes, we just do this, dragon, tower, herald, dragon. Yeah, it's good. You're having a happy time there. And then they just lose that one fight, and it seems that everyone on the team just shatters. Like, we've lost, we've been outscaled at 10 minutes. And no, that's not really what happened, but they just started really trying to overforce these fights in situations where they couldn't, and you're just giving over more and more gold. And it seems they weren't really respecting the globals that much, because they would make a play like into the Shen ult, and then wait for it to come back up and make another play into the Shen ult. And it's like, this is why you want the Jarvan instead of the Olaf. That's why you want to try and force some dives somewhere on the map, something they weren't really able to do. If you can dive whilst the Shen ult is down, or if you just dive the Shen himself, can't ult himself. So you have opportunities in this, and I feel like the Olaf really doesn't work out there. And there was also quite a lot of times that we see Haya look for the ult. He was always either too close in melee range or too far away to land the ult. And if you have maybe the Jarvan, you can box people in, you can make that a little bit easier for Haya. So it started out strong for Viperio, but then really started to fall apart as the game went further on. Then we got the damage charts coming out here, and I refuse to believe that's true, that Shen and Karthus and Anivia and Senna all did the same damage. But I do believe that Olaf damage, but
yeah. I think there was an awful lot of scrapping going on in the top lane, I guess.
True, but there can't be that much scrapping. Right? I
don't know, man. He built a Sunfire Cape as well. You never know. You never know, man. You never know. But, I don't know. It's a real difficult one, because Viperio, there were some issues last week. They seemed to iron those out. And then, like you say, maybe it's a little bit more of a mental thing. And they got sort of desperate in places as well. We saw a few, and it's not the end of the world, but it just kind of seemed like they got that kill on Tom Kench in the top lane, sort of mentioned how they spent quite a bit getting that, which is fair enough. It was quite early on, but then that trend seemed to continue. Whenever they saw someone who was maybe a little bit alone or who they thought was isolated, they would just commit. And as we said about this team, particularly the Leona, but also with the Set and the Olaf, when you commit, you kind of have to go for it. There's no going back, right? You have to keep pushing forwards. And a lot of the fight, it's very much a comp where if you are winning, you will just absolutely steamroll. But because in the arguably still in the mid game, but towards the mid game, some of the early some of the decisions, just kind of didn't seem all there, didn't seem clean across the board. Whereas Pete coming into it, and I think it's sort of this thing as well, isn't it, where like they're a team that have got a lot to prove, and we didn't see everything from them last week, but certainly looked good, showed potential, and now this week the potential comes into full fruition. I think as a team they are on it. They know what they want to do. They've got a game plan. We're going to make it work. Whereas on the Viperio side, there's maybe a little bit of, okay, let's put this comp together. Yeah, but I don't know. I'm not really comfortable on the MF, for example. It definitely did seem like Haya was very unfamiliar with what was going on there and trying to force a comp rather than play something that they're comfortable with.
Yeah, that happens a little bit when you have sort of like the ideal comp and you try and like say hard force it when you're not too happy with the situation. But it just seemed like there was a lot of people not being on the same page. You know, you have the Set Olaf, I was saying they have to go in together. We didn't see that once, and then we see Haya going in alone quite. Oh, not Haya, sorry. We see Rapidex going in alone quite often, and it's kind of interesting. I mean, yes, because they have the new player, right? They've got the new top laner in Wambo. He's doing fine.
Yeah, look good early, right? The synergy was there on some of the early top side plays for sure.
Yeah, that was interesting. So they do have a sub support, so Rapidex may be sweating. We're going to see Divinus in next week, you know, who's to say. But that is always an option, of course, if they think, hey, you know, it's not working out, we're not getting the turbo synergy that we're looking for. You do have that option if you want to try and put some games on Divinus and just sort of see what happens there. So there are options for Viperio, but Peak did a pretty good job of staying sort of in this game, because even though they seem to be bleeding out early, we don't forget, like, they lost these 2 Drakes and were blowing cooldowns left, right, and center, but they were only really down like a couple hundred gold at the very early stage of the game. So they managed to keep up in the CS, and it's really all that matters when you've got a scaling comp like this one.
Yeah, for sure. Peak Esports definitely stepping things up, impressing, and hopefully it continues for them as well. They seem to be a very determined